Hello, everyone. Welcome. I'm Asha Brown of T1TV, and today we have Todd Kozikowski. Yes?
Yes.
Yes, Todd Kozikowski. I got it right. And he is the founder and CEO of Yabidu. And so we're going to hear about Yabidu. We're going to hear about how it started today and get to know Todd a little better. So, Todd, let me just start out by asking you, what is Yabidu?
Sure. So thank you so much for having me today, and very excited to be part of this new channel. So Yabidu, in short, is a solution to help family caregivers and patients manage the information that they need through a long-term healthcare condition. And so the tools, the resources, the information in a very private setting so that you can have the assurance of knowing what to do, but to be able to also have a private place to share that with a care team to support that loved one potentially who may be needing that additional support. We work with national health organizations as well as local and community and national providers that put their content and information and guidance into our care books. And so we provide a library of care books that guide people on what to do.
I love this concept. I mean, you and I have talked about it extensively because We Are Diabetes is now a part of Yabidu, and they have their care book coming up. But I think, first of all, we'll go back, and I want you to explain care books for people that may have not been on your website yet. But the idea of having all this information online in this private setting that you can share with anybody, I feel like that is a really wonderful and tangible concept for any family that has a type 1 diabetic in the family, but any long-term chronic illness, as you said. What is there any other platform or software out there like this?
Well, it's a great question. There are plenty of kind of caregiving, general caregiving tools to track medications, and we've seen them. But there's really no guidance that's personalized or branded from a lot of the national health organizations that we look to. So,
Right.
for example, like We Are Diabetes, American Heart Association, American Diabetes Association, JDRF, great organizations, but there's so much content and it's kind of spread out all over. And so what we try to do is really help guide to create a very standard format and delivery approach that's very media-centric and very engaging. The fact is that most of us in our lives at some point will assume the role of a caregiver, and so whether it's through natural process, right, whether we become a parent because we have children, or at some point, as we watch our parents age, we begin to take that role on, and we're kind of gradually aware of that. But unfortunately, for too many, like myself, that role gets thrust upon you, and that's when you're suddenly, without warning, you're in shock, and you really have no idea what to do. And no better of an example of that is when you leave a hospital after a diagnosis, or a family member with a diagnosis, and you're not even sure where to begin. Oftentimes they give you the tote bag, the 3-ring binder, maybe a link to a health record portal, and that's it. And so the national trend right now is that we have 117 million people with one chronic condition and many more with multiple, as we know. And unfortunately, there's only so many caregivers that can support us, that have our backs, both professionally and also on kind of the family side of this. So, with the shortage of kind of national practitioners going down in terms of family care, and then the increase in nurse practitioners, there's just this need for trying to better educate people when they leave a hospital system. And oftentimes that care falls upon us, right, as the family caregiver, as the unpaid caregiver. So that's part of this.
Well, what's interesting is one reason why I really think Yabidu is such a great thing, especially for the T1D community, is that my whole life, and ever since I've been in charge of my own care, it has been overwhelming to keep track of everything, especially when the transition goes from, a teen, having their parents still kind of be in charge, but then a teen or a young adult type 1 in college having all of that information, paperwork. What if they also have food allergies and stuff? Like, it's overwhelming, first of all, to explain it to everybody, but it's even hard just to keep track of your prescriptions and just all that information. And having a big file of papers everywhere you go doesn't make any sense at all. So what I like about this is that Yabidu basically fixes that problem, and you can access all of the information that you would need through your system. And you get be in charge of what that content is.
You do, and you get to, we carry, these devices around with us everywhere now, and so to be able to access that, to be able to snap a picture, record something, a milestone that occurs, and to have that in your environment, and then more importantly too, especially in the T1D community, when we have children with T1D initially diagnosed, to be able to have those care instructions to a babysitter who may not know anything about T1D, or just their feeding schedule, their care instructions, the things that they want to do, instead of writing that all down, to be able to deliver that digitally. And what we've done that's really nice is we've created something called a care board. And at Yabidu, the care board is just a private way, kind of like a heads-up display of being able to share with the people you love, to say, hey, here are the things that you need to know about my child or my loved one with this condition. And to be able to do that digitally, and to turn it on or turn it off relative to the people and roles that you want in and out of your care circle. So
that's fantastic. And then to touch back on the care books, I mean, can you give a brief description? And this hopefully will entice some of the viewers to be like, oh, wow, this is, I think I will go check it out. And for anyone watching, you can go to the We Are Diabetes website, and we have a beta code, so they can click on it, or they can click on the Yabidu link. They can go and they can actually start working on their own profile. So it's very simple, easy access, and it's free. But I'd love to hear more about what the care book concept is. And the care board made sense, but let's talk a bit about the care books and what that is.
So care book is really like a playbook on what to do or what to know and track. And with using that kind of book analogy, we organize information by chapter. And so the chapters are validated by many of our family caregivers who have gone before and tracked information, well, whether it's supporting someone with diabetes, whether it's somebody with cystic fibrosis, a brain tumor, leukemia, we've got them all. And so within the care books, we organize information by chapter, and within each chapter are various suggested cards. So maybe it's building a profile of basic health information for your child or for yourself. Maybe it's tracking a symptom. We have cards to allow you to have a timeline of symptoms that you might want to just have a digital storage of. Instead of consulting the gray matter, you have a place to record that. We have cards to help track even insurance receipts. So if we're doing IRS disbursements at the end of the year and our flex spending accounts, this is a great way to just keep track of your payments throughout the year and print them out. Yeah, it's wonderful. So it's lots of little tools like that. And then within our library, we are also linking into national content. So many, as I mentioned before, like yourself with We Are Diabetes and through national organizations, you'll be able to have access to their content, to that resource, whether it's in the hospital or whether it's right at home. It's your private place with the tools and resources that you can leverage and import into your kind of care world and care circle.
Sure. And what I really like too is I do think a lot about families that have a newly diagnosed type 1. And type 1 isn't only diagnosed with children, it's teens, adults. Sometimes you can be diagnosed with T1D when you're 50, and there's so much information. And what's beautiful about this age that we live in is there's tons of websites and there's this huge diabetes online community, but that's very overwhelming for someone who's recently been diagnosed. So I love the concept that Yabidu is going to be taking snippets, like you did with We Are Diabetes. You took some of the core stuff that's on our website to get it to your user community, and I know you'll be doing that with other diabetes organizations, and that offers just so much support to people that don't even know how to start sifting through the information, but they can get those little tiny snippets of information, to just give themselves a foundation of understanding.
Yeah, and what's powerful too is we're already seeing the engagement from our families with other families or other people within their care team. So part of our value add that we want is to help family caregivers obviously learn and have the assurance on what to do, or even as a patient, but then also to establish that care team at home or in that neighborhood on what to do as well, to help bring up the health literacy, because that's the key right now, is how do we drive health literacy so that we're better informed on knowing what the right next steps are and what we need to do as caregivers or patients. And oftentimes the hospitals just are so overtaxed and so overwhelmed that they can only do so much, right? So it really comes back to us. And if we can create that private experience for ourselves, it's not on a public website, it's really a private environment that's secure. That's the goal here for families, and to have that assurance.
I love that. And, I'm curious too, you've shared a little bit about this, but I'd love to share with our viewers of how did this start? How did this idea start for you?
Yeah.
Most people, unless they've had a personal experience, they're not like, I am going to, make it really easy for people living with chronic illness. No one ever thinks about us. So I'd love to hear kind of how this idea and this idea of Yabidu came about.
Yeah, so Yabidu really was a very personal experience. So I have two daughters. My second daughter was born. She was the one that, frankly, it's the first one you prepare for as a new parent, right? But the second one, you figure out your old hat, you know what to do. But Ellie, when she came out, she had different plans for us. She had very early on what appeared as seizures, and then sure enough were. And she had them for nearly several weeks. And so, it's a very debilitating process as a parent. It stops your world because you're watching your child going through this, and you're not sure what are the next steps in her care. And so, in her case, we were rushed into the NICU, and like many families that we met along the way, you're left in this dizzy state of what are the next steps, what information do I need to know? And then you become that person of tracking information because you're sharing instructions, you're watching certain behaviors that you want to share with a nurse or with a doctor. And then what ends up happening too is oftentimes you start in a community hospital like us, and you may get transferred to a specialist or to a specialty organization or a hospital. So many families have this experience where they start in one hospital, they get transferred to the bigger one, and with that you become the health record for your child or for your loved one, right? You're the advocate. And so whether systems are integrated or not, at the end of the day, you're still the one with the information that needs to be, you need to communicate that. And so for us, that was a struggle. It was pen and paper, it was ink, it was Excel spreadsheets, it was manila folders, it was a mess. And so we really wanted to change that up and make it, the sense that because we do carry mobile devices around everywhere, why aren't we doing a better job recording this and having a private place? And so that became the birth of Yabidu. Thankfully, in Ellie's case, her condition improved, and part of that was getting the help and services that she needed. But for so many of the families that we met along the way, they were going through much worse conditions, and we just said there has to be a better way to do this right. And so, yeah, that's how Yabidu started.
I love that, and it's also good to hear that your daughter is doing well. She's healthy and just
Yeah.
a regular kid now.
Yes, and she certainly is a regular kid. Like any good 4-year-old would be, right?
Of course, yeah, that is quite an age. It probably keeps you very busy. One thing I wanted to ask too, because I remember really enjoying this story, is the name Yabidu. I mean, that's different.
Yeah, it has no connotation to Flintstones, although a lot of people think it does, and that's okay. We're happy with that.
Yeah.
But actually, Yabidu came about, it was kind of, honestly, somewhat lucky, the way we came across it. Just searching, as usual, for different unusual names. We're trying to find an interesting domain that's happy and fun, and oftentimes in the care and health industry, there are so many companies. It's my care, your care, we care, my health, your health, our health, and it's very hard to differentiate. And we wanted something that hospitals and care clinics and so on could, when they saw, they could feel actually like, we know who you are.
Right.
And so Yabidu came about. We happened to be reading across in all places an old prayer book that came from medieval times. And it's the root is Arabic, but the word means love without end, love without perish. And so we felt it was very appropriate for what we were doing. We could get the domain.
Right, yep, very unique, yep.
Very important. But then what happened, we just did it as kind of initially as just a joke, and just to have it be fun. And we started going into hospital systems. I'll never forget, we went to Boston Children's and meeting some of the top brass there, and they just started laughing, and they said, "Oh, well, you guys are the family company, the caregiver company, right?" And so that brand connection started happening, and so we're going to keep it. So
I love it. I love it so much, and the story behind what that word actually means is really, it's so fitting, and very authentic. And I really appreciate you being here today, and I really hope this kind of gives the people watching a little bit more information about Yabidu and why it could be so beneficial both to to an individual living with a chronic illness or a family, and even families with kids who thank God, don't have chronic illness can really benefit from Yabidu. And I appreciate you sharing more of what that means, and I really hope that we see the name Yabidu pretty much in any hospital. I know you guys are making really quick ground, so I won't be surprised when that day comes.
Yeah, it is absolutely exploding. So we are very busy and very excited. So absolutely feel free, check us out, and we're excited to answer any questions.
Excellent. Great. Thanks so much. I hope you have a great day, and we'll be in touch.
Thanks so much, Asha. Have a great day.
Bye.
Bye.